it's wonderful to have you in this interview, and I'm very happy to feature you as part of the series for Reimagine the Future, right? Which is what the International Coaching Week is all about this year. So I'm so happy that you have the time to be part of this initiative, Phek.
Thank you very much, Sripriyaa, and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to share.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Phek, I understand that you're currently in Beijing, and I'm super happy to see the kinds of the cross-cultural diversity that we bring, right? We're all based in Asia, but still there are lots of differences that we could learn from each other. So I'm very happy, and let's see how the conversation takes us forward, Phek.
Sure.
So, Phek, I wanted to find out, there's something that comes to mind. There's this quote that says, with great power comes great responsibility. And as coaches, we hear powerful words, right? Like we're part of transformations, we are into change, we help people change their behaviors, make their lives better. It seems like, you're in a very responsible position when we hear such powerful words. And of course, humility is what I would say we go with, rather than saying power in any negative or a disruptive manner, right? So we are looking at that. So what are your thoughts when you hear this quote, Phek?
Thank you for the question. I believe that I have this beliefs in my mind that coaches, it's somebody that co-create the coaching process with the coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So when this what do you call this leadership? When you have the power, you have that great responsibilities. No doubt.
True.
It is there for you, and you step on that leadership role, you
Correct.
pick up on that, it is always on your shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah. So me as a coach, I position myself as somebody that co-create that process with my coachee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Helping them to see from different perspective,
Yes.
how that actually help them in their leadership role. And if I may use the one of the cultural orientations framework dimensions, that is a sense of power and responsibility.
Correct.
Yeah. And we always have that, like the thought, the quote that you have just shared, you say, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And we always have that assumption in mind. Leaders, you need to have the power, the control, only then you can play a role as a leader. But sometimes it might not be necessary that case.
True.
Yeah. And the paradox is, how do I actually bring in humility in this sense? Yeah. So as a coach, when I co-create with my coachee, I bring in that part to help them to see we actually need this both ends.
Correct.
In order to succeed. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So that would be my thought on yes, you with great power, and sometimes when you don't have power, it is also a power for the leader.
Correct. Okay.
So yeah, so that is also a responsibility and accountability as a leader. So that is how I would see this see this perspective.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, you said even when there is no power, literally, there it is good. What's that, Phek?
When I say when you have no power, it is actually a kind of power as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of invisible power. So let me maybe I share one example that a recent client that I have. They are experiencing this chaos in the company. People are leaving, and the CEO, it's in the mood of, I don't know what else can I do. I don't know. It's everything. It's what I'm doing. It's just doesn't seem right, and people are just leaving the company. I provided whatever that I can, meet their needs, expectations. But people still leave the company. Yeah. maybe because of the pandemic or whatever. But now you see, when you feel that you are powerless, that is the moment where inside you still have that power of what else, that I'm not doing anything.
Correct.
And that is also a kind of power of not doing anything, and let that moment, let that flow to fill out, or how do you say that?
Provide the catalyst or the impetus to, to keep going, right?
Yes, exactly. Because not all the time that as a leader, you need to step in, played a strong role, powerful role to move things forward. Because sometimes it may be because you are putting too much power, too much controlling, and your people, it's like, I cannot breathe.
True. Interesting. Good to hear these perspectives, Peck, because I've asked this to at least about 8 or 9 coaches so far, and each person came with a different perspective. I hope we'll be able to bring all of these perspectives on this quote and share it to the larger community soon enough. But thanks for taking the effort and sharing your perspectives, Peck.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm speaking out loud here to you, and I might be wrong,
Yes.
but I'm saying this at this moment, the context is like this. And
Correct.
when we change the context, like we say culture, sometimes context evolves, is dynamic, I may have different set of answer.
Correct. Absolutely. I mean, it's what's happening at the moment, how we are able to perceive things, right? And it's good that it comes from the moment instead of it being from some other point in time, right? How do you feel about something at this point in time?
Yes.
Great. So, Peck, also as part of coaching, we use a number of approaches. There are lots of triggers that we use to get something called insights in our coachees, right? So, what are some of the perspectives that have yielded the maximum insights for your coachees, Peck?
As you mentioned, as coaches, we use different various methods, approaches, and yeah, same as me as well. I use different modalities in my coaching approach. And I would say, if you were to ask me what kind of perspective that would yield the maximum insights for my coachee, I would say there's no one that really, but a couple of them in a combination.
Okay.
Yeah. The first one would be perspective taking, inviting the coachee to see the scenario, the situation, the context from a different role. So I invite them to do role play in session as well, playing your role, yourself, stepping outside and telling yourself what you will tell this pack right now. Okay. And in the past and in the future. So exploring different dimensions, different time dimensions, and also different roles, as well as, for example, seeking the perspective that is from someone who is your mentor, someone you really trust, speaking from someone that you really, not like, or someone that you're really, really close, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
And listen. Yeah, and listen. I think listening really plays a huge part in my coaching approach.
Okay.
Listen to the coachee. Just this morning, I did a coaching session with a coachee from Australia. She's suffering some burnout from the work. And then she said, actually, I just feel I need somebody to hear what I'm feeling. Just that simple. Yeah. Somebody just listen there and just hear I'm talking. And that makes me feel really good.
Absolutely. I mean, there's this power in when you're able to intently and genuinely listen, right? The other person can feel it, because sometimes we try to act as though we are listening, and but the other person can get it, because there's always that distraction. There's the power of sensing is very high in human beings, and it's a two-way process, right? It's not just the coach has the ability to sense. I think as human beings, the coachee has even a deeper ability to sense whether this person is invested in me moving me forward towards my goal. So there's that a little antenna that all of us have, and I think when you genuinely bring it out, I think, and it's a skill, I would say, that I have learned over the years. I don't think I mean the intensity to tell is always very strong in human beings, right? We just want to share our experiences and bring out the stories, or connect the dots for somebody, give solutions faster. That's what we want to do. But it's wonderful. I mean, what you said about listening, and also about take perspective taking, right? I mean, both of them are very powerful, Peck. Thanks for bringing it out.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I mean, Peck, I know you did share an experience with a coachee that happened this morning. But what are some situations where, when you have coached somebody, and there's always this coachable moments, right? Or rather, the moments of insights that they have, and that moment of insight is actually would have propelled them towards their goals or towards their results faster. So, are there any situations or anecdotes where this has happened in your coaching, Peck?
Yes, I would say maybe again I bring up another example.
Sure.
Yeah, again it is also relates to perspective taking. So my coachee constantly during that coaching conversation mention about, I feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the guilt if I'm not doing this right. I feel sorry for my boss because my boss has been helping me a lot, and so on. And this word guilt comes out in the conversations for at least more than 5 times.
Wow.
And then I'd say, okay, hang on. What is going on there? Yeah. Would you like to share a little bit more? Tell me what's the story behind it. Yeah. And then she started to share. And then I asked her, okay, now let's take a step back, right? What would you tell, right, your current self, hearing from all this guilty stuff that you're mentioning? What would these person, yourself in the other space, tell you? And then she can very objectively tell the current self, as in, you're just doing this too much, focusing on other people. You're burning out yourself. You are actually risking your own health, well-being, and so on.
Correct.
Yeah. What would you do? What advice would you give her? Then she can come up with very clear advice. Okay. All right. Now back to your current self right now. Hearing from what you just hearing from your new self, right? What insights do you have? Do you hear that? Oh yeah. Yeah. I have so many thoughts in my mind, but sometimes I just feel like I'm lost. Yeah. I'm confused. Yeah. So I think that short moment of 5 minutes of a period or 5 to 8 minutes of conversations help her to really reposition herself, realign herself with her own values and her perspective, what she wants to really do, instead of just ignoring her values and then putting other people's value on herself, yet she find it very difficult, not comfortable, because it's really not aligning. Yeah.
Correct. This is good, because sometimes when you help them see those things, right, it seems like it is there, but they are not able to see it. But when you're able to help them see it through a process, right, and I think it's a very fulfilling moment for both them as well as us.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Peck, when we coach, we do wear multiple hats. I mean, there's a mentoring hat, there's a coaching hat, there could be multiple other advisory hats, etc. And as human beings, we also typically want to jump and share information quickly. But in your experience, how do you avoid this advice trap, Peck?
Good questions, Sripriyaa. Good questions. To be very honest, I interact and work with different coaches, diverse group of coaches from different cultural backgrounds. And I would say I will not avoid that, as in like avoid
Okay.
the advice trap. But I would say, depending on the context and the coach's level of awareness. Yeah. Just to give you an example, if I'm coaching somebody, executive, director, and this particular person has the knowledge already and has the ability to reflect and have this high level of self-awareness, most of the time, I don't give advice.
True.
Yeah, I would just invite them. I would just ask questions and listen to their stories and ask them to tell me their stories and what they learned from their stories. How would they reframe their new story?
Correct.
Yeah, that would be the approach to the what I call higher self-awareness coaching. And I do have coaching that a lower, not to say lower level, but managerial level, individual contributor. And sometimes they will come in and they don't have that knowledge yet.
Correct.
Yeah. So that moment, I would need to play the mentor role.
Correct.
Yeah. So for example, presentation skills, sometimes they need to present to a group of CEO, senior leaders. All right. So some of the knowledge will have to come in. So we need to train them on that before this coachee can actually, okay, now I need to find my own style in presenting.
Correct. True.
Yeah.
True. It's what you rightly said is also what I hear is it's the maturity and the awareness levels of the audience, and we need to tailor to that. And oftentimes we get into advice when we're looking at the skill level issue details, right? Anything to do with skills like communication skills, or as you said, presentation skills. You do jump and you'll have to flip to provide some form of advice to for them to quickly be able to take action. But when it comes to something to do with behaviors, or even to some slightly higher levels of requirements, that's when people have to think and come to their own conclusions, right, Beck?
Yeah, absolutely. You're putting in the right word, beautiful words. Yeah, the maturity of the coachee. Yes. And it is not a natural born stuff for me, right? I do learn that because, as you're aware, that I come from corporate background.
Correct.
I used to work in corporates, and when you're in leadership role in corporate, we are very used to tell.
True.
Yeah, so that I learned throughout that period as well.
Wonderful. I mean, good perspectives are emerging, Peck. Thanks, and let's continue the conversation. So, you must have seen, and I think this is a good question after what we discussed. We coach people at different layers of the organization. It could be a mid-level, high potential, then or you could be coaching a senior leader, or sometimes the C-suite with board responsibilities as well. So they are varying in nature. Does your coaching approach vary across the different layers, Peck?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. I think it relates to what I just shared with you in terms of the maturity of the coachee.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Have
When
you seen any specific differences? Let's say a CXO coaching vis-a-vis a hypo coaching at a slightly a slightly a few levels lower. How does the let's not call it the approach, because perhaps the approach could vary, but what's the difference in the kinds of conversations that you have, Beck, when it comes to this let's say a C-suite personality with a mid-level manager?
mm, I think the one of the biggest difference that I observed um, between these two group or two individuals is the CXO, the focus of the coaching would very much on the like my leadership style, my leadership behavior, my mindset, attitude. How do I influence, get my people on board, motivate? Yeah, more on the like it is intangible, I would say.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Whereas the managerial level, it's focusing most of the time on the skills building, competency.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Common topic like time management. How do I manage my time? How do I prioritize my time? How do I present in a more influential way? How do I actually speak in a more confident way? Yeah, all this may some extent appear in the CXO, but the intensity, the focus, it's slightly different.
Correct. 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 Well articulated, Peck. Good. Now, there's also this whole thing about organizations investing a lot in internal coaching capabilities, and then there are also external coaches whom they engage with, and both are making a difference to the organization and their outcomes. So, what are your perspectives here, Peck? I mean, what's the difference between internal and external coaching and the possibilities it can address?
Mm, I would say internal coaching. Maybe again, I use one example. Again, this is I try not to generalize because case by case, some companies they do really have a very good internal coach and supporting the coachee development. But some happen in the example that I'm going to give you is they have this internal coach in my client, and when they are coaching the leaders in the organizations, the leaders often feel that the internal coach has some mission or some intention that is trying to drive the coaching process or coaching goal to certain direction that is following the global objectives.
Okay.
Yeah. And they felt like, are you trying to manipulate me?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so they don't feel comfortable. Then they reach out to external coach like myself. Then they say, I feel more comfortable talking to you. You're not linked to the system, and you have independent view. Yeah, although I don't have that really knowing every detail in that company, what's going on.
Correct. Correct.
But my role is to help them to see how they would again telling their stories if they has the opportunity to do it in a different version.
Correct, correct. In a way, the clarity of distance brings a lot of comfort and conviction in the conversation. And if it is the same thing, it's like when it's in your own backyard, you don't appreciate it as much as when it is when you go travel out and see different countries, right? So, in a manner, I think the clarity of distance always helps. And of course, it depends varying away, once again, the maturity of who is the coach and who is the coachee and what they're really focusing on. Is it an outcome that they're all wanting to align to something, or is it an outcome for the individual, right? As what he wants or he or she wants.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
Very nice. Good points, Peck. I'm also very curious to understand a little bit more about the work that you do, Peck, which is all in the space of, I know you use culture, and that is one of the key lenses to your coaching practices. And what kind of results has that brought to the entire process of coaching for you, Peck?
Yeah, very, very good questions. Yes, I would say right now that I'm dealing with the coachee that I have, I would say maybe I would say all of them actually coaching. It's intercultural coaching in a way.
True.
Yeah, we deal with the challenges that different personality that I mean the leaders challenges that they have in their workplace. They work with people that come from different personality, different preferences, different mode of thinking, communication preference, time management, and so on. And all this, when I bring in that perspective, the paradox perspective to the coachee, then they realize, oh yeah, it's not all I cannot expect everyone to behave the same like me. Um, Having to accomplish everything in this period of time, and then pushing myself as to the perfection mode. Yeah. So that coaching, intercultural coaching does really help a lot in my work right now, in my coaching. Even I'm coaching a group of Chinese leaders in a team coaching environment, which I did last year. And you will find that they do share diversity and differences as well, even they are homogeneous team. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. And they realize that, oh yeah, I didn't know that you prefer this indirect way of communications. You're avoiding conflict. Okay, now I know. That's why I don't always hear you in the meeting. You're always very quiet. And then some of them, they are very, very used to direct, I'll just disagree with you and this is my perspective and so on. Wow. And some people are not comfortable with that. All this has to has to do with our upbringing, culture.
Correct, correct. And the good news is we could belong to the same Uber overall culture, like how the world calls it. I mean, it could be like a Chinese, and I could be a Chinese, or I could be an Indian and another Indian. But here we're not just talking about the superficial cultural differences that the world often sees, right? It is sometimes we belong to the same, but yet we are different, and that's when understanding these differences and perhaps even learning how to leverage them, or even teaching how to leverage them. I think that's what the process of coaching actually facilitates, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You put it in a very beautiful way.
Thank you, Peck. And I'm now that you just brought out the word team coaching, Peck, I'd love to understand. Sometimes I hear, look, team coaching is similar to facilitation, which is what we typically do in a let's say in a workshop. You facilitate a group of people to come to some form of alignment or achieve an objective for whatever the workshop is all about. So is team coaching similar to facilitation, or is it different? And how, and if so, what really are the objectives people are driving to in when it comes to both these contexts?
Yeah, that's another good question. This is from my perspective, from my experience working on team coaching, and because I do workshops facilitation as well. I think both of team coaching and workshop facilitations, they do share some similarities.
Okay.
Team coaching, you need facilitation skills to
Correct.
facilitate that conversation. I
True.
think the facilitation is a skill that you need as a coach, as a team coach, to help the team to have that dialogue in that space. Team coaching itself, has a very clear issue that the team would like to resolve.
Okay.
Yeah, and very clear goal. Okay, now we need to align, and we will then arrive at this particular objective or destination. Yeah. So that I would say in a way a team coaching. Yeah, a more purpose goal driven, goal oriented sessions, and each one will get a chance to explore their own perspective, right? In a safe space, and then push them a little bit outside of their comfort zone at the same time, and then reach the ultimate team goal, team purpose.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what I'm hearing is that definitely facilitation is important when you come to team coaching, because it's a skill where you have to get a group of people aligned on something which is an objective, or a clear path to their goal, right? So, and they're all aligned and moving there, and perhaps in a workshop it could be more free flowing, or leaving it to the not necessarily that everybody needs to be taking this as a takeaway. Each person can have their own different takeaways from a workshop and they can walk away.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So, Peck, you also use a lot of technology in your facilitation. I see you're kind of interested in mural and things like that, to where you can bring teams to collaborate together and ideate together, right? But how does how is it useful for you as a coach? How much of technology do you bring into your coaching?
Oh yeah, good question. I think what I'm trying to do is to leverage the benefits of technology in coaching. Um, Again, some coachee, they're very open to technology,
Right.
and they loved it. Then I'll take it to the maximum, bring in mural, asking them to do some activity on mural reflections and document it down. I think the most important learning for me would be asking the coachee to document their goals, their actions, learning point regularly in with the help of technology, that in a dashboard or in the mural. Yeah. Yeah, that would actually help them to see their progress, and people, when I mean, as a human being, when I see me progress, I feel good, and I can show it to my manager, like, oh wow, see, this is how far I've gone, and this is my achievement, and so on. Yeah. Where some coaching, they're reluctant to technology, I say, okay, minimum, you put it down uh, in your notes or do some journaling, share with me.
Correct.
That would be fine as well. Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah, again, they have a choice. They make their own decision. Yeah.
Correct, correct. I mean, but when it comes to technology today, you hear words like democratization of coaching is possible through all
Yeah.
these technology platforms, and coaching at a click of a button. What's your perspectives here, Peck? I mean, I'm curious to find out what you think about it. Where is it all headed with so much happening in the background? Because I know when in 2012, when I was getting certified, it still looked very analog, right? And today it's like super digital. Anything is possible. Anybody can coach. Anybody can take coaching, and anybody can become a coach. So it's really a very the uniqueness in those what it started off as, and it's meant for the elite, and it's you have to have a lot of experience, and it was a different feeling when I was getting into that space. And today it's like it's completely different. It's like the Gen Z and the baby boomers or Gen X kind of what is happening. So what's your take, Peck, here?
Um, yeah. I think I learned about this term, democratizing coaching, from my some of my colleagues from US, and I think the coaching itself comes from US, trying to popularize this idea. And to me, I think in Asia, this part of the world that where I'm active in, I would say there are two trends, or maybe one, two trends that I'm seeing. is there's a huge transformation in our workplace right now that we are seeing, right? The young generations coming, those that are born after 1995, and they expect very different sets of needs from the organizations, from the leaders, and all of these needs don't come in or doesn't have that explicit or visible as compared to in the past.
Correct.
Like in the 70s or 80s, where like now we hear the words like belonging, we hear the word trust, vulnerability, emotions, authentic.
Absolutely.
These are all emotion words.
Correct.
Yeah, in the past, no leaders talk about this. Leaders would feel these are all feminine energy. And people, it's very afraid of to touch all this aspect. But now, if you're managing the young generation, these are the things that you have to deal with.
Correct.
As a leader, you don't only talk about profits, KPI, performance. The new performance for you would be the relationship that you have, the quality of the relationship that you have with your team members, right? With your employees. Your employees, do they feel happy? And why we want engagement survey, right? So I think that this democratizing coaching, make it so easily accessible for the employees, I think it's definitely is going to be a trend. For people, maybe Asia would be a few years behind, but it's definitely going to happen. And then the second trend is, I see, from China here, just to share a little bit of the context, a lot of coaches are very, very young coaches. Some they graduated from school and then they started to take up coaching classes and then they come out as a coach.
Wow.
Yeah. And you will see this trend, everyone trying to be a coach, but what exactly that the coach is offering the value to the employees, right? To the employees in the organizations or leaders. Maybe, my perspective is, I would say sometimes it is quite difficult. Yeah, because you still need that context of corporate in order to help the coachee to bring in different perspective. Although you don't give advice, you can just ask questions, but sometimes you need that context, how an organization operates, how an organization function, what are the systems in place, who are they going to deal with, who are the stakeholders. All this comes in giving us a big picture. Yeah. So that would be the trend. I think may not be so healthy at the moment. Yeah.
Correct. Well, good. This is good to gain your perspectives, and it's also very interesting to see a whole new generation of coaches just coming out of college from the location where you are in, right? And what are you seeing around that place? And it's very interesting, and I'm hoping to see what's the impact it's going to leave for the system as a whole, right? So it's good. Which leads me to find out, now that we're talking about these trends and where things are going on, what's going to be the future of coaching for you? What is Phek going to leave as a legacy, or let's say your contributions to the future of coaching, Phek? What should they be like?
Wow, this is a big question. I'm not sure I'm in a good position to answer this question, but I try. I think my role would be very much in the Asia part, and also the bringing in the cultural perspective, cultural element into coaching. And right now we deal with a lot of I believe you heard about the term diversity and inclusions, equity, right? And people are talking about it, and Asia started to talking about it as well. And of course, our context is very different from the US and the Europe. Yeah, so Asia has its own context in China, and Singapore, Southeast Asia has its own context as well. So it's not the same. So how are we going to deal with that when we interact with coaches that from different diverse background? How are we going to with that. So I think my role, I would like to, position myself or see myself, having that influence in the bringing the cultural perspective, cultural element into
Beautiful.
coaching. Yeah.
Very, 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 very nice, Peck. And I should only say, let's just truly hope and request the universe to conspire you to, go on this mission. I mean, each one of us have the clarity with which we are able to operate as we move into the future, helps us to be clear on how we want to perform. Of course, the world changes, the environment, and we're not in control of everything. But at least the clarity can help us move forward in a more meaningful manner, right? As we say, meaning, purpose, and unity to what we can bring to the kind of work that we're doing. So I want to say thank you, Peck, for sharing your experiences. This has been very useful, and I want to wish you the very best in all the work that you do through coaching.
Thank you very much, Sripriyaa, and I hope the sharing it's helpful for you as well.
Absolutely, I hope it. I mean, one is like we say in every context, even though we know some parts of what you're saying as a coach, there is something new. It's like when you heal someone, you heal yourself, right? So in a manner, when a couple of coaches share and talk, I think we learn from each other, and that is, and I'm seeing that even the last week where I've been speaking with coaches, there's something that is making a small difference to the leader I'm going to coach next, right? So there is something that happens in every interaction within the same space. It's like like we say, within the similar space of coaching, we can, the differences really can bring higher perspectives and elevate the process better.
Thank you. It's my honor to share.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Peck. I should say thank you very much, and all the very best to you.